So, once again, hello. I'm thinking about whether there is something we forgot to say about me, and I don't think so. I live in the Czech Republic, and I work at the Masaryk University at the Institute for Research in Inclusive Education. And as it often happens, we started with the original idea of exploring inclusion in education in primary schools, secondary schools, and naturally over time we moved and our interest took us to young adulthood and adulthood, meaning to employment. And it also was due to the fact that we have some partners abroad in Finland, in England, in Germany that we work with for quite some time. And we went through 3 international projects together that were building one on another. So we started with adopting Index for Inclusion for secondary schools, and then we moved to supporting employment or to ways how to support employment of people with disabilities. And today I would like to have a look at the situation in the Czech Republic, and I will welcome any comparisons, because I know that United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland, have different history than we do have. But surprisingly enough, when we were doing our research and then comparing with research outcomes from abroad, we found out that the situation does not differ that much. Even though our history and our social and economic situation is very much different. So this is the outline. Basically, I would like to have a look at the context, then at who is a person with disability looking for a job, who is our partner in this process. Then I would like to say a few words about the experience employers have, something that we explored in the chapter in the Job Coach book. And finally, at what we tried to do about that in another international project aiming at the stakeholders. So, Czech Republic is a small country in the center of Europe. We have borders with Poland, Germany, Austria, and Slovakia. The population is 10.5 million people. And what is significant about Czech Republic is the fact that in September 2018, we had the lowest unemployment rate in the whole European Union, 2.5%. But while I say that, it's important to realize that there are huge differences among the regions in the Czech Republic, and the unemployment rate is really almost zero in the capital and up to 10% in borderline districts, mainly in regions in the north of the country. So it is not a homogeneous country. There are big differences in different regions, and I think that's the same everywhere, even here. We have a long history of heavy industry and of coal mining, which is our disadvantage at the moment, because both coal mining and heavy industry is winding down. A lot of the factories are being closed down, and as a result, the unemployment rate jumps not unexpectedly, but unevenly throughout the years, with coal mines and big companies being closed down. Again, especially in all the heavy industry and coal mining is in the regions with the highest unemployment rate. With this, hand in hand goes the fact that the economy in the Czech Republic traditionally focuses on manufacturing, on sub-delivering parts of big machinery or whatever that is meant for companies that are abroad. So we export the parts that we manufacture in the Czech Republic. At the moment, those are small components for computers and ICT stuff, and also components for cars that are then mantled somewhere in Germany or anywhere else abroad. However, nowadays, the workforce in the Czech Republic is not the cheapest, and all these companies slowly but steadily move more to the east. So we face a big challenge. We face changing labor market, and this unskilled workforce of manufacturers needs to be changed. We need skilled, flexible workforce, people that have some special skills and competence for this new labor market. we will see how that will go, because at the moment politicians seem not to notice this obvious change of the labour market, and instead they pronounce plans, or they announce plans that our education, vocational education, should be demand-driven, and the education should produce workers the labour market asks for. But the demand nowadays is very much different from what demand will be in 10, 20 years' time. So in our point of view, this is short-sighted, and it's one of the biggest challenges at the labour market that applies to people with disabilities as well. So that's the context. Even though it may be a cliche, every time I talk about the Czech Republic, I have to make a short stop in our recent history, because it still determines the present very much. It's only 30 years ago, so a lot of the people that are important legislators, local government representatives, or parliament members grew up in times before the year 1989, when so-called Velvet Revolution came, and the communist regime, very undemocratic one, slowly started changing into democracy. And so their socialization and their values were built in times that are very much different from what we hope to have now. One of the things was the idea of a socialist citizen, somebody who is conformist in his ideas, in his worldview, and also a socialist citizen had to be a healthy one. So people with disabilities were out of sight, straight from very early age until the end of their lives. They were taken care of in institutions that were usually in the mountains or in small villages on the borderline. We call it a castle phenomena, because a lot of those residential institutions were in castles and chateaus that were confiscated from their original owners. So the people that now are formulating the policies are people that grew up in times when diversity wasn't part of the society, and diverse workforce was non-existent at that time. What we had, and we often talk about, is right to work, which was guaranteed by the law. In fact, it was an obligation to work, and it was a very powerful means of control, because if you wanted to get rid of someone who was unwanted, uncomfortable for the regime, you did not give him work, and then you sent him to prison because he did not have work, and that was illegal. And that also somehow shaped opinion to work that there still is with some people. And people with disabilities were integrated into the labour market only to a small degree. And if we talk about people with disabilities, we usually talk about people that acquired a disability, I don't know whether that's a proper way to say that, later in life, usually due to an accident or due to a lifestyle disease. Those were rarely people that were born with a health condition or a disability. Yeah. The only possibility for them, and these are logos of those traditional companies, were so-called cooperatives of disabled that resembled a sheltered workshop. Typically, they were manufacturing baskets or brushes. And this idea wasn't bad as such. However, nowadays, there is no market for baskets and brushes. These are things that are imported from China. And so the work of these people, unfortunately, lost its importance, and it lost customers, because the price of the things they manufacture would be much higher than the imported stuff. So that is another challenge that we were facing over the last 30 years, find different ways to get these people into the labour market. So what does the situation look like now? In 1990s, we slowly started integrating people with disabilities into the society. It started with education. It was in 1994, I guess, when the first schooling act after the change of the regime was published and or enacted, and it said that children with disabilities have right to be educated in mainstream settings if the headmaster agrees to it. So still there were a lot of barriers, but it was an important first step. And slowly but steadily we move on, and now with the European legislation, such as the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Czech Republic was really bound to make much more for integration of people with disabilities to the labor market, at least when it comes to official declarations. What are the opportunities? As I already mentioned, one of them is low unemployment rate and for the time being, stable economic situation of the Czech Republic when the economy is still growing compared to the situation in 2008. And so the employers have to look for other employees, have to look among groups that they were overlooking originally, and workforce of people with special needs is certainly one of them. And also with the economic stability and the growth, companies started to emphasize responsibility, be it responsibility to the environment or social responsibility. What are the barriers? There are still strong prejudice and a lot of stereotypes among public, including employers. And hand in hand goes lack of examples of good practice. There are excellent employers doing excellent work, really integrating a very diverse workforce, but these people rarely have time to, publicize their achievements. And this is a place that we found for ourselves at the university, and cooperating with NGOs. We really looked for the employers, and we tried to raise awareness about the things they do and showcase good practice to other employers, hoping that it will motivate them to go and try it also. Another thing that is a barrier when it comes to employing people with disabilities is that Czech Republic is a very individualized society. We do not have strong families, strong family support, strong informal support. I know that that is something that works here in Ireland, at least when it comes to what is very much discussed in the Czech Republic is your home sharing project. The fact that the community takes care of adults with autism. And there is a group of parents in the Czech Republic that would like to apply the concept there. But this is the problem. There is no community that would take this as a natural responsibility, that they will share care of the members of the community. And all that, and the absence of this informal social support is, I don't know what it is in English, but simply it is the state that takes care of the citizens, but usually in the form of financial subsidies and financial benefits. Most of the things are solved by giving some financial aid, not by changing attitudes, working with the people, building some sort of community. And what are the challenges? As I said, changing labor market. So apart from working with, on the attitudes and public awareness, we have to be aware of the fact that we have to prepare workers for the future, not for the time being, but look at the competence they will have to have in 10, 20 years' time. So who are the people with disabilities? Who are our partners? I don't say clients, but they are really adults, and they are our partners in the process. I don't know whether you have good figures about people with disabilities, but we in the Czech Republic don't. For many reasons, it is very sensitive to collect data on health status and to collect data on employability of people with disabilities is the same. From the statistics that we have, we can say that there's approximately 1 million people with disabilities in work age population, and half a million of them have profound disability, so they usually are not job seekers. So we talk about like 500,000 people, which in in a country that has population of 10.5 million is not a small portion in the population. The structure of this group of people is changing also, especially after, if we look at it historically, after Second World War, majority of the people had physical disabilities, usually due to some war trauma and or other health conditions. Nowadays, with the progress of medicine, this group of people, those are people with physical disabilities, and there's 36% of them among the population of people with disabilities, is decreasing because the medical care is improving and we can solve quite a lot of the health conditions. But this group of people, the red one, says 32% are people with disabilities resulting from lifestyle diseases, and this one is growing.
Can you define lifestyle diseases? What you
diabetes, for example.
Right.
Or it's, I was looking for a term, I don't know, civilization disease, is it a better term?
No, just a question of lifestyle.
Yeah, so it's
Just a question of defining it.
yeah, asthma, diabetes, or all these diseases. So this group is growing in number. Why do I mention it? It's important because those are so-called hidden diseases. So those are people that have to disclose, which is another issue that we could talk about. The willingness and the barriers to disclosing one's disability to an employer or fellow workers. And then we have two groups of people, intellectual disabilities and psychiatric disorders, that together form 23% of the population among people with disabilities in work age in the Czech Republic. And this group, these 23%, are the most excluded group among workforce of people with disabilities. They are the highest, the most prejudiced against this group, their ability and capacity to work and assume some responsibility. Yeah, and the last 9% are people with sensory impairments. There aren't that strong prejudice against this group, but as I looked at the statistics deeper, interestingly, among people with visual impairment, there is the highest percentage of people that were qualified with, we have three degrees of disempowerment. Does it make sense in English? And there is the highest percentage of people with the third degree or in the third degree of disempowerment. And the portion is the highest from all these categories. So even though there's no prejudice, they do not enter the labor market. Yeah. Another thing that we should have a look at when we think about this group of people and what we can do for them to support employment is what education they have. Because as I said, the labor market is changing and employers are looking for flexible and competent workers, people that are able to adjust to new situations and they can assume changing work. If we have a look at education they completed, the darker green is a general population or mainstream population, and the lighter green are people with disabilities. And as you can see, there is like 5% of the population that has not completed compulsory education. So those are people that are not illiterate, but they haven't got any formal education, not even the basic level. It means that it is likely that finding a qualified job for them will be very, very difficult. And the same, this is vocational without certificate and with certificate, and this is university education. So you can see that the mainstream population receives, in general, complete higher education. And that is another consideration that goes back to education, that we have to focus on the education that we provide and the quality and the relevance of the education that we provide. And one before the last one, there was a research in 2013, a representative research asking a large number of people with disabilities what is their motivation to work. And they mentioned that they want to earn a living, they want to meet people, it's an opportunity to leave home, not to sit at home, they want to be useful and they want to have new experiences and knowledge. What are conclusions from this? People that mentioned none of those reasons to work were employed only in 7% of the cases, while people that mentioned all 5 were employed in 30%, meaning that the success at the labour market is also given by the motivation of the people themselves. It's not just about what we create for them and what the employer attitude is. And the last is look at the unemployment rate. As I said, in 2018, the unemployment rate was 2.5%. These are data from 2013, when the unemployment rate was nearly 5%. But still, that is the general population, 5%, 27% inactive, people that are neither at the labour market nor working or in the workforce. But with people with disabilities, the unemployment rate was 8%, and out of the 69, there was 19% of people that gave up trying to find a job. So it's 27% unemployment rate among work-age people with disabilities, which means 1/3 of the population is not able to find work but would like to. And that is a very serious information for us. I already mentioned these international documents that shape the situation in all European Union countries, including Czech Republic and England still. What are then the approaches to supporting employment of people with disabilities? There are basically 2 ways: human rights approach and quota system. If we have a look at the map of Europe, we can draw a line somewhere in the middle, and from this line to the north and west, the countries more rely on human rights approach, on social responsibility, and on the attitude to work as a basic human right. And from this line down to the south, the countries, including Czech Republic, more rely on the quota system, on setting some set of penalties for employers that do not employ people with disabilities. In the Czech Republic, a company with more than 25 employers has to employ 1 person with disability. So if you have 50, you have to have 2 employees and so on. There are ways to get out of this. You either pay some sum of money, or you buy products or services from employers who employ people with disabilities and so on. So there are ways to get around this. However, it is an important factor for at least some employers to go and try to employ someone. So, in the beginning, I kind of tried to define what is the group of young people with disabilities looking for a job. And now we have a second stakeholder, and those are employers. And what is their experience employing people with disabilities? We were doing in-depth interviews, as I said, with employers that have prior experience employing people with disabilities, because this, in theory, and I know it, differs very much. And in our case, this in theory, contrary to research in education, is less favorable than I've done that and I have the experience. The research nicely shows that the theory of effective social distance works, that people that have experience with co-workers with disability have more favorable attitude than those who stipulate what that would be like and what obstacles we might face. We grouped, or we analyzed the data, and the outcome of the analysis are these four main groups. So there is motivation to employ a person with disability, facilitators, what helps us. Then there are concerns about employing people with disability, and barriers and challenges. With the motivation, probably not surprisingly, because when I listened to your talks, I could find out that a lot of you have personal experience with people with disabilities, and that is how you found your way to the job you do. And that is similar with employers. Very often their motivation was their personal attitude, or an impetus from somebody from the HR department, a committed employee, or a personal experience of one of the employees, somebody from the management. The second source of motivation, as I said, was to avoid the fines and try and employ someone instead. And third, very important one, was that an NGO, a support employment company or a job coach contacted them and offered cooperation. That was the third important source of motivation for them. And what were their concerns? As you can see, the list of concerns is, we could call it list of prejudice, that, as I found out, is very universal. I was looking at other documents, including the US Chamber of Commerce, so I even looked overseas, and the prejudice and concerns are really pretty much universal. First one, the person will be ill very often, and we will have to find 100% cover for the person. Second, they will have limited ability to perform the tasks. And third, important one, it will have negative impact on the workforce. The person will be rejected by the fellow workers, and it will negatively impact everybody's performance. And the last, very general one, something may always go wrong. With the last one, I would say yes, but that is true with everybody. That can always happen. And with these three, all the employers that we talked to said that it has not confirmed that there were issues, especially with the third one. With the second one, but that was treated in cooperation with the job coach. They were finding the right employee for the right position, and they were discussing and negotiating it so that really the employee is the right fit for the position. Mm-hmm. What were the facilitators? A lot of the employers said they wouldn't do it without the job coach being present at every stage of the process. He provided information in the beginning. Then he accompanied the person, he was his mentor at the workplace. And they do not disappear after 2 months. They keep in touch with the management and with the employee itself, so that they can, in case something is going wrong, they can soon enough jump in and solve the situation. Yeah. And what were the barriers and challenges? The first one was very rigid legislation and very complicated legislation that allows you to get some extra funding and create a workplace designed for a person with disability. And also competence of people with special needs. I already mentioned that we have to think about their competence as well and about the education being relevant. Yeah. Last but not least, attitudes of the society. Many of the employers said that they were afraid to employ a person with disability because it is not welcome or favorably valued by the society. And they say that's the attitude of the society, and necessarily we have the attitude as well. So these things brought us to an international project that focused on employers, people with special needs, and on public. When we heard so much about the public influencing attitudes and decision-making of the employers. Our main aim was to support these two groups by showcasing good practices and making materials that are strength-oriented, that really show young people with special needs as valuable members of the workforce, as somebody who can bring something to the companies. This project was an Erasmus Plus project, and it was funded. It was run by the University of Northampton. We are a partner there. What were the outcomes, in short? The first one was Mini Guide for Employers, a very brief material which has more than link to internet pages where you can find detailed information. And it was aiming at employers. And it was offering a strength-based look at people with disabilities. It looked at cultures, policies and practices of a company. And we offered case studies of young people that succeeded at the labor market and information about them in the areas of culture, practices and policies. We also added a quote, an evaluation of the employer of the young person, and also very brief information on what adjustments were needed, so that we fight the prejudice that these adjustments will be costly and very difficult to make, because usually something simple is sufficient when the job is defined well enough. Yeah. And also because it aims at general public, there is information about the disability and what it means. Then we had a material for young people with special needs. It basically is an online tool. They fill in when they go through vocational education. They fill in their personal information, their likes, dislikes, their strength, but also they learn to communicate their needs, which is very important. Later on, as they progress through their vocational education and get some experience with paid and unpaid jobs, they fill in these as well. They can fill in pictures of their work. If they are carpenters, they can upload pictures of what they produced and so on. And the aim is for them to have a portfolio they can then take with them to their job interview. And then they can show what they know, what are their strengths, and they know how to explain the needs they have. Yeah. Because sufficient self-esteem and self-advocacy skills are very important when it comes to communicating with a potential employer. We also produced a portable exhibition that we still use during occasions such as Week of Inclusion in the Czech Republic, or some special events at the regional government buildings. Those are case studies, as I said, of young people that succeeded at the labor market, and you can find information on the education, on adaptations that were done at work, and some others contain a short interview with the employer, or information on transition to independent life, what was necessary to be done. These were collected in our 4 countries, in Germany, Czech Republic, Finland and England, and the exhibition was done in 4 languages, which is one of the most difficult things in the project, as we found out. We didn't expect that. We did also other things that weren't originally planned, but we found it a good idea. That's the Czech team, 3 people from the university, and 3 people from an NGO offering supported employment and job coaches. We made a gallery tram. This is a shorter form of those original posters for exhibitions, and they were in a tram that is taking passengers on ordinary lines. And so for 1 month, we tried to target general public with our gallery tram, and it says here, everybody has something to offer. So that was the motto of the exhibition. We hope somebody read it while going to work. And the last one were videos, short videos with people, with young people that are employed. These Finnish ones also include a short interview with a job coach. And he's explaining what the communication and the work and everything he does on behalf and with the young person with disability. And these are things that aimed at employers thinking about employing someone and at general public. And all well strengths oriented. We did not mention the disability or barriers. These people were explaining and showing how they work. And we tried really to show employees that are valuable, full members of the teams. What are the conclusions that we made? Based on the analysis of the situation and on our project experience, we need to showcase and put forward examples of good practice so that as many people as possible find out about these success stories. And it's a way to dispel myth about people with disabilities. There are still so many, mainly among people that have no experience with young people with special needs. We put forward strengths-oriented approach, showing competence of young people, not showing their deficits. We need to provide relevant education. And with this relevant education and competence for the job market, young people will be able to self-advocate and look for their jobs and succeed, hopefully, at the labor market. These are the resources, and thank you very much for your attention. That's it.